around the world. I'm glad to have you here tonight. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First the Republican and then the Socialist. Yours truly at the helm. I'm the exceptional one, Kevin Clinton. And we are about to rock this joint like we never have before. Mary Brockman is at the helm in the chat room at SHR Media Live and at the ExceptionalConservative.com, joined by Dave Milner, better known as the Underground. Forgive me, the unpleasant blind guy. Get on out, guy. We will have the Underground Professor with us tonight. We will be doing a sneak peek on New Day Black and Red at the 10 o'clock hour. You will be joining me. And tonight, I know I missed last night when I was supposed to talk about Mobo, former Red Guard individual. We're going to talk about that tonight. About the anarchy on the campuses of America. What you should be doing about it. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no better way to start off a show with the words that literally set a nation afire. The Pledge of Allegiance.
Today we're going to start our day with the Pledge of Allegiance. Patrick, can you get us started?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, there we go. There is no better way to start off a show than with the Pledge of Allegiance for the United States of America. We're coming off of Veterans Day yesterday. And believe it or not, I actually got a call from the VA this afternoon. And I didn't get a chance to answer. I don't know exactly what it was all about. You can be the unpleasant professor. Thank you, Dave. I apologize. The underground blind guy. It all runs together sometimes. Booyah! That's what I'm talking about. Nobody started. Not tonight, Senor Brockman. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so pleased. We are broadcasting on USTREAM. We are broadcasting on live stream. We're also being carried on Rebooting Liberty, which has me at some parts of the week coming on at 8 a.m. and some parts at 6 p.m. And I am the king of 9 p.m. I can tell you that I am the king of 9 p.m. I am comfortable there. Sometimes a little too comfortable. Especially when I spend time with my good friends from Sackheads Radio, SHR Media's Sackheads Radio, Sackhead Shaw, Sackhead Clint. Sometimes when I spend time with them, I get a little bit more leisurely, I might say. But tonight we're going to keep it all above water and above ground, and we hope that the influence that we have upon our growing listening audience is most indelible. You may have noticed some changes we've made to the website. We're going to continue to make some changes. We're going to improve. We're going to grow. We're going to be better. I can promise you that. For those who were looking forward to say something, I can actually do that now on Social Stream right there on the ExceptionalConservative.com. I am loving this technology stuff. And there we go. The first one in there. We'll log that one. Okay. Thank you very much. Bam. There you go. First one in there tonight. Love you, Mary. My beautiful wife, my betrothed wife, my Mrs. Biggs. is on my heart and on my soul and on my mind this particular evening. I want you all to pray for her. Pray for her healing. Pray that the concerns that we have are just merely light refreshers of how great God is. All right, and you know I love her with all my heart. Mary got a chance to witness that while we were in Vegas. So just keep her in your prayers steadfastly. I know when I ask that of this group, you most certainly will. There is much ado on the campuses of America. And thanks. Dave's going to keep us abreast of the scoring of the Jets and Bills game after he shares out the show, and I really appreciate when he does that. When it was Ken or the second Republican debate, I picked Ken. Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much. And apparently from what I've heard, you didn't miss very much. That's what we heard last night from our good friend Ralph Chittums, who is certainly pro Carson, without a shadow of a doubt. Gotta get comfortable here. What's happening on America's college campuses should concern you, ladies and gentlemen. You all have seen Professor Click's retort of a reporter, photojournalist in fact, who was covering the event on the campus. They virtually, after taking over the campus, made it very clear that free speech and the First Amendment have been suspended. There is no free speech. There is no free speech on the campuses of our universities. And part of the problem with that is that we have taken lightly what these individuals are doing on our campuses. They're taking advantage of our children, and you need to be aware of that.
Professor Melissa Click committing assault and battery against the student journalist and calling over the muscle to remove him from the campus safe space. Here's the clip taken by Mark Schurtbecker, who I think should file a police report for assault and battery immediately, because here he is walking onto the campus, supposedly safe space. I'll do a video on safe spaces another time. When he is literally assaulted and has battery committed against him by this professor.
You need to get out. You need to get out.
Right now.
You need to get out.
Right there. She grabbed the cell phone. That is battery. Okay? You can't do that. It's a crime. Literally, it's a crime. And even if it doesn't break the cell phone, even if it doesn't harm the person, you cannot touch or push somebody or through an extension of an object by throwing something at them or throwing water at them. You can't touch them, push them in an intimidating manner. You can't even, now that's battery. Okay, so by the way, this whole Mizzou mess, I'm going to start doing daily videos again. You're new in my work of the last couple months, you're probably just familiar with the Man on the Street Monday interviews, but I'm an author and a media analyst, been really busy last few months trying to finish a new book. I'll start doing daily videos again soon, but it's a big story all over the country. The Mizzou football team decided to walk out and not play their game, and so the head of the university and the chancellor stepped down for not handling evil white supremacist racists on the campus appropriately. So what is it that happened? The New World Order is what happened, by the way.
There you go. The New World Order. Mike Dice there. We appreciate his reporting on this at Mediaite, and as you know that he's working on his new book. But the bottom line is there are individuals who believe that because they have a grievance, because they have an offense, because they are righteous in their indignation, although unrighteousness is closer to the pattern, that simply they have a right to take away your rights and your freedoms and your liberties because they are grieving, they are offended, they are hurt. And as far as I know, there is no way that you could possibly control what a man thinks. When you're able to do that, please alert me. I will be most astute when we come back. I want to talk with you about something that we should be concerned about, rightly. And that is simply that there are those who have decided that communism should be seen, heard, and exemplified on the campuses of America. The unfortunate thing is your student, our tax dollars, are going to support that particular effort. I don't want communism in America as much as I don't want abortion. I don't want my tax dollars going to support an institution that promulgates communism and holds a preference for a certain type of racism versus another type of racism. We'll talk all about that when we come back. You know what I like to do at this particular point. I like to think of a juicy, hot hamburger. Something that right now I can't have, but something that would just make your mouth water.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of the Reeboot restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. We're making a pizza. We use French Italian sausage, a quick here to slice it up. Our pizza crust is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and good. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now, we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia noodles, our fishing dish on the menu. And our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused heat burgers. So we keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck hand patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on it until it looks good. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to it and spice it up a bit.
Unpleasant blind guy, conservative, fight.
That's what I'm talking about. Even oh my God, the underground, even the unpleasant blind guy wants to take a conservative bite. Oh man, what a night I'm having right now. I tell you, what a night I'm having right now. But you all know. Really?
Looking for the right place to.
Thank you very much. You know where to go, people. 6339 Allentown Road. I tell you, it's Friday. It's not even Friday, people. Not even Friday. Oh my goodness. 6339 Allentown Road, Chippewa Hills, Maryland, 20748. 301-449-9000. Infuse Restaurant. Make it part of your weekend festivities, my friends. You all know that last night, and yes, I am going to play an unpleasant blind guy clip a little bit later on, so that's what you errantly heard, but it was a nice mix, man. It's like a nice mix. Wiki. But in all seriousness, this week we've been focused on the concept of character, the indelible mark that is left behind. A mark by which individuals, rightly or unrighteously, know who you are, because those marks reveal exactly the concept, the thoughts, the feelings that you experience. And sometimes they markedly decipher what people want you to feel. We've been talking about virtues. We've been talking about values. We've been talking about liberty. But all of it goes back to understanding who the author of your belief is. We know that in Missouri, there were those who tenuously held to the concept of what freedom is. The unfortunate thing is freedom was everything but observing the rights of all people. And as such, there are those who believe that whether you're in Ithaca, whether you're in Missouri, that they have the right to take away from you that which you believe in. This is why our work this week on character is very important. It goes towards the presidential campaign. It goes towards your congressional races. It goes towards my desire to find the murderer of my daughter, Shanice Milton. Character speaks not only to the integrity, but to the values and the principles that we adhere to. In order for us to take back our country, we have to take back first the principles by which this country was created. Those principles were built upon the framework and the foundation of Judeo-Christian belief. If we choose not to adhere to the concepts of the author and the creator of our Constitution, then we certainly have to replace what's in that vacuum. Well, if you take away freedom from a culture, if you take away the characteristics of liberty and virtue from a people, then the only thing that's left is villainy and totalitarianism. And you can call it whatever you want. I mean, that's why we have colleges. We come up with different names, and then we create philosophies behind it, and then we have 3-point bulletins and presentations like that. But sincerely, if you take away freedom, a vacuum is created. The absence of freedom is totalitarianism. If you ask a congressman, do you believe in totalitarianism? Do you believe in taking away the rights and the freedoms of a certain group of people to appease another group of people? They will probably tell you all that. No. But if they uphold it in any capacity, then yes, that's exactly what we are watching. The absence of freedom creates a vacuum. The absence of the first principles creates a vacuum. The absence of virtue creates a vacuum. The absence of character, at least godly character, creates a vacuum. And we know, whether it is science or life itself, a vacuum does not remain a vacuum long. Something has to fill the void so that the suction will stop and so that stability is granted. Now, a lot of people will say, Kim, well, how can you have stability under totalitarianism? Well, let me say it this way. Jesus referred to, when he was speaking to the Pharisees and Sadducees, he was referring to Abraham, and he said, you're not the descendants of Abraham. Your father is a liar, and he is the author and finisher of lies. He was the father of lies. Virtually is a paraphrase there. So virtually, what you distinguish as apportioning yourself to something doesn't make it true. You're a liar. So the absence of freedom, the absence, and this is how you know that there's an absence of freedom, there's less love, less sound mind, less power. When you don't feel those things going on in your culture, then guess what? You are watching a vacuum be created, and that will soon be filled with stealing, killing, and destroying. What Professor Click did to the photojournalist in Missouri was to steal his rights away from him, to destroy his labor, and to kill the concept of a free press. She did it not by debate, but she did it by force. I want to bring to you tonight Mobo, and I'm not just making a urban colloquialism here. Mobo is or was a real person. He served as a Red Guard. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Red Guard is, and apparently, Deb, thanks for being here. Apparently, a lot of people don't know who the Red Guard are. It only takes a little bit before you forget your past. The Red Guard was an assemblage of young people who were radicalized by, most people would say they're noble in our society, but really they're not. They're defiantly evil because they are using the adolescent behaviorisms. They are enslaving and indoctrinating a group of people who literally survive under the tutelage of these particular professors and receive the reward for their adulation to these professors in the manner of graduating. Meaning that if you don't agree with this professor, you could possibly end up taking this class again and not passing. You don't think that happens? It happens all the time. It happens all the time. It's called force. There is a reckoning of force. Sometimes it's done as a means of aligning people to a certain enlightenment. Sometimes it's done merely to punish those who seek to shine a true light on those who think that they are enlightened. Professor Click did what communists do. I'm going to repeat to you again, and if you take offense to this, well, that means that you're probably a college student. Professor Click did what communists do. They avail themselves the opportunity of taking from you that which you will not fight for or stand against. I don't know where, except for in moderate republicanism, which is another name for socialistic big government republicanism, did we get the concept that if we are demure, if we shield ourselves and not come out fighting, then we've won the war. When actually we've won nothing and we're losing everything. Mobo wrote back in April 1987, I was a teenage Red Guard. Fanatics ready to commit violence and denounce anyone in the name of communism, or heroes who sacrifice personal comfort to work for the greater good. Why do you think they're asking for safe places? Conflicting images of the Red Guard summed up Western confusion about Mao's China. Mobo remembers what it was really like to be a Red Guard. Mobo writes, when the Cultural Revolution reached my school in 1966, I was 14. Mobo is 14 years older than I am. I was born in 1966. Dr. Michael Hughes was born a few years earlier than moi. I cannot believe that he does not remember Mao Zedong. But I guess that's the kind of history that you learn when you're on a historically black college or university. In the beginning, classes were interrupted from time to time. The teachers began to get worried and did not know what to do. Then overnight, I want you to hear that word, because some of you all were taken unawares. Those who have been listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show were not taken unawares. We've been talking about this issue. We've been talking about socialism and communism. We did a show on Mao Zedong. And guess what? Dr. So-and-so, who comes on WMAL at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Dr. So-and-so, you're not the only one who talks about these things or write books about these things. You regurgitate the same history that we've observed. There's no great reward for reciting it. We are forewarners and prophets. We must speak the truth, that people avail themselves to it and either submit to it or fight against it. And you know which doctor I'm talking about, comes on radio. I digress. The word overnight should really catch you here. Then overnight wall posters appeared everywhere. We all took it for granted that the senior students wrote the posters and that the only thing we could do was admire them. Most of the posters were just empty slogans, but one depicted our geology teacher as a dirty bourgeoisie intellectual. I know the professor has probably been called a dirty bourgeoisie intellectual himself over time. He'll be on at 10 o'clock tonight, we'll be talking about this. Our geology teacher as a dirty bourgeoisie intellectual because he would make sure that the water temperature was exactly the same as that of his body whenever he washed. He was also criticized for his yellow diaries, which was searched out by the active rebels. The active, you see these air quotes? Pay attention. Pay attention, because over the next year, going into the presidential campaign, don't think they won't be in Cleveland. Chicago is about to be reborn, and you're about to watch it happen. The communists have come. Listen, when they were going after Lucille Ball in the 1950s, and everyone criticized the senator for doing so, he may have had overreach, but he wasn't wrong. The communists and the socialists have always had intentions upon you and your children. Lobo's telling you this. Watch what he says. He was also criticized for his yellow diaries, which were searched out by the active rebels. He was so eccentric that we all thought there must be something bourgeoisie about him. Classism. What did Karl Marx say? Will ignite the flame so that there would be a class struggle. Racism. Ask the United Nations to define racism and they will look at you and say, we cannot. There is no difference between racism and ethnicity. But on the college campus of Missouri, blacks will tell an Asian that you cannot be a part of our safe place because we are against you because of the color of your skin. But we have that right to be against you because we are oppressed. Oh, isn't it beautiful when the oppressed become the oppressors? Is that not what the class struggle is about? Is that not what bourgeoisie versus proletariat is about? Taking away your property. Remember Professor Click? What did she aim for? Aim for his camera, his property. Taking away his freedoms, his liberties. Oh, the First Amendment says that as a free press, he has the right to cover the story, especially on a public campus. She went right after those things. And when she did, well, she went and she found black people to uphold her. Now, I want to pause it. Can we put a stick here for just put a stick here for just. Katie Couric took a tour of Planned Parenthood. Katie Couric, Miss NBC, Miss former CBS, now Miss Magazine, took a tour of Planned Parenthood, and she called it a safe place. Now, I'm going to be very provocative here, and Dave will probably broadcast this for the world because here it comes. Would Katie Couric have walked with Hitler through Auschwitz and convinced Americans that the gas chambers were a safe place? I hope you all heard what I said. Would Katie Couric have walked with Hitler through Auschwitz and then reported back to the American people that the gas chambers were a safe place, a harbor, so that those who should not exist could become non-existent? Am I provocative enough to tell you that yes, she would? I believe she would have. Any African American, any Negro, any colored, any black person worth his melanin should be so righteously offended with great indignation that letters, calls, and everything else would go to the stations to the networks, to the commercials, and the carriers of those commercials for supporting Katie Couric. But let me explain to you why Negro, colored, black, African Americans won't do that. Because they don't see Planned Parenthood as a racist strategy of genocide. They are convinced by those who have enslaved and indoctrinated their minds that the gas chambers of Auschwitz are a necessary arrangement to eradicate life that is considered non-essential. I want to tell you that because it allows you to understand how a race of free people have in nearly 70 some odd years been converted to a point that they would march their own children through the gas chambers of Auschwitz and kill them because it's for the greater good. Mobo talked to us about the greater good. He writes, in the past our teachers have been intimidating. Now the situation was reversed. Whenever teachers came across a student, they would lower their heads. This kind of experience was so intoxicating that some of us went off our heads. But like most of the Red Guards, I never appreciated the beating people up business. The farthest we went was when the most unpopular teacher was made to kneel down and confess his crimes to the students. One student hit the teacher's heels with a brick. I couldn't bear to look. This student was one of the rough boys who would call their fathers bastard and perform badly in exams. Chairman Mao gave them the chance to get their own back. At least, that was how I understood it then. It is how I understand it now. I'm going to put this in the chat roll, this whole paragraph, and I want you all to see what I am talking about right here. I couldn't bear to look. This student was one of the rough boys. She did not call, Professor Click did not call over one of the doctrinal students to debate the photojournalist. She called for muscle. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back from this break, we're going to continue with our study with Mobo and how this show, the Exceptional Conservative Show, is preparing your hearts and your minds and your souls for the true battle. That this battle is not about race. This battle is about the soul of our country. Shall we become communists and comrades in arms? Or shall we rebel and fight for liberty? The days are coming near.
Time to race, make the next step, we reach out to tomorrow, let's say
Time for an unpleasant blind guy, conservative bite. When celebrities talk, though this shouldn't be the case, people listen, and they act on their words. Recently, Quentin Tarantino appeared on MSNBC to answer allegations of bias against law enforcement officers, which arose from the following statement that Mr. Tarantino made at a recent anti-police rally. What am I doing here, I'm doing here because I'm a huge reader of conscience, and when I see murder, I cannot stand by, and I have to call the murdered, and I have to call the murderers, the murderers. The MSNBC interviewer played the following from Congressman Ted Poe of Texas. He referred to police officers as murderers. His hateful rhetoric called for violence against law enforcement. I have to call a murderer a murderer, and I have to call a murderer a murderer. Adding that he is on the side of the ones who confront and are confronted by police. His comments encourage mischief and crimes against peace officers. For the haters to justify lawlessness in response to perceived lawless acts by the police is idiotic. What, a response to the congressman? Well, that's not what I said. But that is what you implied, Mr. Tarantino. The implication is that as long as there is a white face attached to it, there is a bigot under every hood and a racist behind every badge, eager to gun down non-white people for the simple reason of race hate. It's easier to feign outrage and start arguments with celebrities than it is to deal with the fact that the citizens really lost trust in them. More accurately, Mr. Tarantino, it is easier for people like you, who haven't lived in the real world since the launch of your cinematic epic Lovebirds in Bondage in 1983, to create single fact as if it was a movie script, and then try and impose your own particular style of social engineering on the real people of the United States of America who live real lives in the real world, and who, unlike you, do not have armed security protecting them. They want you to shut up, and they want to make sure that no other people like me, prominent citizens, will stand up for that side. This last statement, Mr. Tarantino, tells everyone anything they need to know about your character. You consider yourself a prominent citizen. Well, be one who is not unsympathetic and understanding that you haven't lived like the rest of us since Ronald Reagan was in the White House and Donna Summer was working hard for the money. Allow me to correct you. This is the United States of America. We are all prominent citizens in this country. I will allow that in your Hollywood bubble, and to those unwise enough to listen to celebrities as if they had some sort of special wisdom, you are influential. But every citizen, regardless of background of the United States of America, is a prominent citizen. I know you do not believe this to be the case, but the rest of us do. Your opposition does not want you to shut up. We extend to you, as we should, the right to free speech, which every citizen in the United States of America enjoys thanks to the sacrifice of the men and women of our armed forces. But we also expect for you to respect our right to speak freely, and this includes criticizing you. In the real world, sir, people receive feedback all the time, including me, and it's not always positive. That is how free speech works for all the citizens of the United States, including you. They're going to read what I say. They'll watch this show. They'll hear what I have to say. And I think they'll make up their own mind, and we'll see what happens. We certainly will. For my part, I will put the whole of Mr. Tarantino's MSNBC interview up at UBG Contact in the Twitter so that I will not be accused of taking remarks out of context. Mr. Tarantino, this may be difficult for you to believe, but it is not hyperbole when I say that all over the United States of America, right now, good law enforcement officers who treat everyone equally go on watch, knowing that people like you have helped to influence some people that it is not only acceptable for them to commit crimes, but it is acceptable for them to resist law enforcement even to the point of deadly force rather than be apprehended for those crimes. Some of those people are armed, some are not armed. Mr. Tarantino, it is the duty of law enforcement officers to protect and to serve. If you wish to make the situation better, sir, I would suggest that you begin producing movies that do not make the commission of crimes look cool. I would suggest that you begin supporting things like the Open Heart Closed Case campaign. I would suggest that you familiarize yourself with the cases of such people as Shawnee's Milton, Militia Rudd, and Cecil Mills. I would suggest that while you highlight cases that you believe portray law enforcement officers as murderers, You step up and address the problem of black-on-black crime. Mr. Tarantino, you can do a lot of good with your influence, and your words can do a lot of harm. But whatever happens, you can rest assured that police protection will always be there, even for people like you, Mr. Tarantino. This has been an unpleasant flying die conservative fight.
This man just shaved his chest hair into a heart. It's don't mind.
That's right. That sounds like my sister. It does. But unless she's not.
He's cuddling a kitten.
God, I'm gonna eat those faces. Oh, she's hot. That's a lollipop. That is not a lollipop. Yes, sir.
That's right. It makes your mom tight. If you're gone and it's out of smoke, I just left right. I just left right.
Just like that.
You gotta swipe your lips. You gotta swipe your lips like that. You gotta swipe your lips. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta lips like that. Look at you with your shirt on flexing. You're buff, but you puff, hashtag the flex. Yeah, you work out, you're in shape. Okay, I like the six-pack abs, not the six-packs a day.
I came across a photo of this green-eyed hottie. Home run, pretty face, tight waist, nice body. Hottie was feeling over with one small fact.
She smokes like an old man at a racetrack.
It makes your mom tight. So if you're gone and it's out of smoke, I just left right.
Just like that.
You gotta swipe your lips. You gotta swipe your lips like that. You gotta swipe your lips. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta lips like that. The world traveling and trips look expensive. Sitting on a mountain top looking all offensive. I was about to ask, is the air up there? But based on this pic, I guess you don't really care.
Lots of sticks in the quick, not sure which one's you. Them cigarettes are taking you from friends to twos. And one thing's true about your whole crew, when a new cigarette is gonna be my boo.
Smoking with a tiger?
Let's like that.
While you're on your glider?
Let's like that. Smoking while acting healthy. Let's like that.
Smoking all stealthy?
Let's like that. Smoking with a duck face. Let's like that.
I don't trust your truck brakes.
Let's like that. Smoking at the farm. Let's like that.
Even in a photo bomb?
You don't care. Let's like that.
You gotta swipe your lips. You gotta swipe your lips.
Let's like that.
You gotta swipe your lips. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta lips like that. You gotta swipe your lips.
Hashtag.
I'll never remember you.
Welcome back, people! Yeah, that's for our friends from Milwaukee. There you go. Welcome back to the Exceptional Concern Show, live from the nation's capital. And I am so glad to have the opportunity of sharing air with just a wonderful, wonderful humorist and commentator, the Unpleasant Blind Guy, Dave Milner. Just wonderful commentary, sir. And thank you so much for your kudos regarding the Open Heart Closed Case campaign. I want to say this to you all. Of course, the Bills are up at 12-3 at the half. That's really not good for my fantasy football team, I suppose. But I want to say this, the Jets are losing, apparently, so this is not good. Not good. It's not good. It's not good at all. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about communism. And there are those who believe that communism is the way, the truth, and the life. I want to do this tonight with you as we've been talking about character this week, the indelible marks, which describe what we believe in, our values, and whom is the author and the finisher of our values and beliefs. Mobo writes in understand this particular article. Then, following the example of the students in Beijing, we formed an organization of Red Guards. Everybody wanted to join the Red Guards because nobody wanted to be unqualified, backward, and non-revolutionary. Do you understand that what's happening on the campus at Missouri went to Yale? And it's spreading in other campuses. Part of the reason is there are no justifiable reasons. There wasn't a KKK flag burning or cross burning. There wasn't any of that swastika or all that. It wasn't none of that really. What it is a philosophy, an Occupy movement philosophy that is fighting against capitalism, fighting against conservatism, fighting against the Constitution, and fighting against Christianity. You don't have to wait for ISIS to come. Your children on those campuses are much like Mobo back in 1966. They want to be a part of this rebellion. It's a part of their nature. They want to get back at the man who's been oppressing and holding them down, even if their family makes $20 million a year. Maybe they would have made 40 if it wasn't for the man. Mobo goes on, he says the teacher takes the student as the enemy and uses examinations as weapons to attack the student. I want to repeat to you this line here, because this line was used in Missouri. Anyone following along at home? Am I making news here? This line was used in Missouri. The teacher takes the student as the enemy and uses examinations as weapons to attack the student. So, attempting to make the student think is a threat to the student's well-being. As long as the student is part of groupthink, he is in a safe place. The professor who attempts to enlighten or challenge the student to move beyond the morass of his own immature thinking is the enemy. The one who seeks to enlighten the student is now the culprit in the classroom. The educational system must meet the guidelines of a philosophy or a theology or an ideology that best suits totalitarianism. Challenging the mind to think in and of itself as an individual will make someone literally a pursuer of liberty, a pursuer of freedom, a pursuer of the Constitution and all the other items I spoke of earlier. And here's our problem, America. Your children, those children that you spent billions of dollars on to educate, don't want education. They don't want to be challenged. They want you to die. The world would be a better place without the aged. The world would be a better place without a large number of children. All the attention can be focused on a group that is fashionable, a group that has power, a group that can force the student to be greater than the teacher. Ask yourself at the local PTA meeting, who has more power in the room? Is it the administrator? No. Because the administrator has to answer to the politician. The politician has to answer to the parent. The parent has to answer to the student. Yes, America. Yes, Virginia. The world has been turned on its axis. And America is no longer fighting against communism. It is breeding it. The teacher takes the student as the enemy and uses examinations as weapons to attack the student. The fact that it was Chairman Mao who had said this meant a great deal. Chairman Mao, the icon of revolution, the icon of what is cultural, the icon of what is intellectually stimulating. What is intellectually stimulating is all in a red book. He has been made a messiah against the authorities who are attempting to enlighten you and challenge your students. He is the marvelous one. He has been the one we've been waiting for. The one that will kill off our parents and destroy our brothers and sisters. And we shall be that generation that has absolute power and control. We will be the perfect generation. Let me read on for you, because some of you all might be thinking I'm being hyperbolic here, that I am speaking a note off key. I am telling you exactly what is to come in this culture. When you have Katie Couric walk through Planned Parenthood with a black woman, and they both agree that Planned Parenthood is a safe place for minorities, especially when minorities make up more than 50% of the Planned Parenthood visitations. Our population is being eradicated and erased thanks to W.E.B.W. or W.E.B. Du Bois, Webb Du Bois, there we go. Eliminated. Because he got a group of pastors, black pastors, who understood that the money doesn't come from the tithe, it comes from the government tit. I'm telling you all truths tonight that you won't find anywhere else, even on some of the most conservative radio stations in the world. The truth of the matter is, there is a generation in urban America that wants change. Not the type of change that liberty and freedom brings, but the type of change that makes one comfortable in the midst of the group. Remember those who run amongst you and tell you that if we run together, there is protection in the group? What they don't tell you are the Marlins are in great mass and number and seek to destroy the group. And they have something that you, Mr. and Mrs. Tuna, don't have. They have swords. They have weapons. They wish to disarm you and make you as gentle as the sheeple that you have become. Maybe I need to read, or maybe it's 10 o'clock. I need to do something, as there are those who are coming online here. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First the Republican and then the Democrat. Tonight, we begin, like nowhere else, New Day Black and Red. Welcome to this particular program. The great Dr. Michael Jones will be joining us in just a few. And we will catch up on Mobo either further on tonight, or definitely we will do this tonight, because we need to do this. Without a shadow of a doubt, we need to do this. So let me do this first. First, we've got to take off this hat, because you know what we do at the beginning of the hour. It is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Today we're going to start our day with the Pledge of Allegiance. Patrick, can you get us started?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. Listen, there is nothing I love best on an evening like this, especially as we will be broadcasting on WNJC 1360 AM 5 p.m. in the afternoon on Saturdays, it is drive time as you're probably going from Park to patronage at the local theater. And none other than the underground professor will be joining me momentarily. And we want to talk about the issues that are happening on the campuses. Ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you, we've been talking here that Marxism has garnered absolute positive control on the college campuses. And what you're watching here in that breeding ground is the first fruit in that breeding ground. And they have made a professor and a president step down, a chancellor as well. There will be hostages and they will not be held. I just want to say this.
What are you wearing?
Khakis.
Not too many people can pull off a khaki thong like you can.
Thank you. They come in colors. Trust me. Most often after I warn them. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us this afternoon at WNJC 1360 AM, your superstation in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, that can also be heard in New Jersey and Delaware, beyond the voice of Chris Christie. None other than New Day Black and Red, my great friend, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, is with me this particular day, and you know he gives us a constitutional background on the issues that we talk about, and I of course give you a biblical background on the issues that we talk about. The background. It's related to the blackboard.
Black lives matter.
That's right. Black grounds matter. Right. I've been tongue twisted for most of this particular day.
I keep telling you, quit buying those Chinese lips.
I know. Okay. Now, Professor, I want to read a quote to you from the writings of a gentleman named Mobo, who was once a member of the Red Guard.
Mofo?
No, Mobo. That's his cousin. Mofo is his cousin. Mobo.
Cousin.
Yeah.
In the immortal words of Mike Tyson, you can kick my ass and ask me anything.
Nobody understood Marxism. After all who would bother. The only things we believed were that Chairman Mao was the great banner carrier of Marxism-Leninism, that Russia had turned to revisionism, and that the Third World needed guidance for their struggle against Western imperialism and hegemony. We also believed that Western society was rotten and decadent, and that the only way to create a new society was to destroy the old one in China first. The academic authorities in the fields of philosophy, history, literature, and art, not science of course, because they had global warming then, had to be re-educated because they stood for the old ideology. Temples were destroyed because they were thought to be part of feudal superstition. Professor, what has become of Marxism in the U.S. on the college campuses?
Well, the only place you can still find a communist is in America, I think. It's growing. I mean, it's sad. You know, the Che Guevara shirts are everywhere. The Chairman Mao shirts are everywhere. The President Obama flags are everywhere. Yes, you can find communism everywhere. I guess you know that I've done a few shows about what's going on college campuses here lately. It's frightening, you know, what's going on, and the thoughts that are prevailing. But they've done it to themselves, and now they're paying the price because the people that they've trained are turning on them. They're biting the hand that fed them. And sadly, the only place that communism is actively being pursued
attitude is in America, where everybody else is going away from it. They're trying to find ways to have capitalist sections of their countries, like China has capitalist zones, so they can get hard currency and create jobs to feed all these people so they don't invade the cities. Which would be good. And so I've got more dogs than I had the other day, the last time you and I talked. I have 2 new dogs. So it's,
Wow.
the adjustment period is going on right now. There's 7 of them, and some of them are starting to get jealous of my time. Yeah. It's kind of like you between a steak and a pork chop. You don't know which to get.
Exactly. So go for both.
Yeah. So anyway, it's growing here because they keep thinking that in America we can make it work because we can throw enough money at it, and that we can, that we've got the smarter people and we've got the infrastructure and that they can make it work. And the problem with communists is that they will not recognize that there is only one flaw in communism. And there really is. Communism is fantastic. But there is only one thing that's wrong with it, and that is it involves human beings. Other than that, it would work.
We're talking today with my great friend, who is the actual host of this particular program, New Day Black and Red. I'm just some squire who comes along and throws the cue cards up in the air for him to read as he goes along. The exception one, Kim McClinton. You're listening to New Day Black and Red. We're talking about college campuses in America, the breeding ground for communism. Now, you remember, only because you studied, you weren't in existence at that particular time period. But there was such a thing as a Red Scare in America. And in this particular period of time, you had, of course, the FBI agent, guru, J. Edgar Hoover, who was trying to locate communists as quickly as he possibly could. And you had the McCarthyism that was going on in that time period. Can you give us just a little scenario, a little concept of what the Red Scare was all about, and how that might be tied over in terms of people criticizing conservatives like us for bringing awareness to the fact that the college campuses are breeding grounds for communism?
Well, first off, don't make fun of J. Edgar Hoover, because it wasn't easy chasing commies in women's underwear.
That dress makes him look fat.
That's where Bruce Jenner's, hero, the first transgendered person in politics for America.
That's right. That's right.
So now, what's funny is whenever you hear someone on the right complain about communists, they throw the word McCarthyism at us as if it's a pejorative. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, well, he may not have done everything the way I would have done it, but tell me what he was wrong about. Hollywood was riddled with communists trying to use Hollywood as propagandists. Now they're just out in the open. Now, in fact, if you call yourself a conservative, it's worse. You're treated worse than whatever was happening under McCarthy and the blacklists. They are afraid to even say that they are conservative. And mind you, remember, if you're conservative, what you're saying is you believe in the Constitution and that you should be left alone as much as possible by your government. And that is abhorrent to those on the left. So enough that they will fire you, they won't hire you, they will give you, work. And so conservatives have to hide. It should be that way for communists, and I don't understand exactly why. Well, I did, but we'll get to that. Don't let me forget to tell you why. But the communism is growing, and McCarthy was right. J. Edgar Hoover was right. Now, the thing is that what destroyed them was they went a bit too far, accusing Elvis and Martin Luther King of being commies and stuff. It was used, it backfired. And, to this day, I'm still not even sure if Martin Luther King was a communist or not, because I've heard so much both ways. Mm-hmm. about it, and I don't even care anymore. It's just, historically, I wouldn't mind knowing, but it didn't change the things he was saying and doing. And then, you remember the show I did called Negroes with Guns?
Yes.
Well, we discovered that I can't remember his name now, the guy the book's about, he was accused of being a communist too by the J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI teams. And it became evident that anybody who was against the Democrats enslaving people, then you were a communist. And so, that wasn't, that didn't help the cause of ending a regime that wants to rule us. But, we all were looking for the Manchurian candidate to come out of Asia. Who knew that it would come out of Indonesia?
Exactly.
The shape of Barack Obama.
Exactly. Now, and when we talk about, because a lot of people use McCarthyism as a fear tactic against it, but there was also the House Un-American Activities Committee back in 1938, and it used the power of the House at the time period for investigation, a power that seems to have waned over the years.
And it should have been done. I mean, there was nothing wrong with what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a power of Congress, and one of the things is, as a citizen of this country, you have no right to overthrow the government through violent means, if there's constitutional means to do so.
Exactly.
And so that's a big deal, and they were trying to find the people that were actually willing to do that. And there are, communists and others were willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to also discuss with you that when Allen West was in the U.S. House, one of the comments he made was that the majority of the black Democrats who were part of the Congressional Black Congress were socialists. And he was ridiculed. I mean, tarred and feathered, if you could do that to a black man.
All right, get over the fact Ken's white. Y'all settle down. Can y'all hear my dogs?
Send all your letters to the affable, benevolent dictator.
One of them barks about it.
It's true. That's very true.
They are socialists, and that's being polite.
Yes.
I would say that they're worse than socialists, but they're actually, and to call them communists and socialists today is ineffective, because a lot of people think that's boring to call them that. They're like, who cares? They're not afraid of communists like we were raised to be afraid of communists.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lifetime in the Cold War against them, in the military. And so I'm a little more sensitive to it than these kids today. They like wearing the shirts. They don't get it. They think it's all cool and retro and funny. They don't know how close they came to speaking Russian or German. And so we have, instead today, I think it's better if we just focus on the words tyranny and statist, because they're not afraid of the word communist, and it makes us lose ground when we call them communists here.
Really?
The youths of America, yeah, it does.
Wow.
I know this because of my college students that I have. I learned that if I call them tyrants, like King George III, and that they're statists wanting central governing to tell us all what we can do and can't do, and then you apply it to them personally, because even then they're not afraid of it. They think, well, that's a good idea. That's efficient. That's having a government that's making all these decisions efficient. Once you explain to them how the economy actually works, or is supposed to work, and you explain to them what a statist actually does to them, and you make it personal by affecting their lives, well, then they change their mind. None of them want it. But the problem is you have to articulate it in such a way that it becomes personal to them. When it's just some nebulous concept, they see it as efficiency. And that's how all their teachers are teaching them, that this is a good idea. Now, if you ask the Soviet Union about central planning, you're going to get a different opinion. All they did was starve. The people in the Politburo got fat, and the rest of them got hungry, and so they're not for central planning. They can't work.
But we
I can look at Milton Friedman's eye pencil if you need an example.
Exactly. We experienced central planning just recently here in the United States. When
8 years we have.
Yeah, but especially under, it was first the blame was placed on Barack Hussein Obama, President of the United States, and earnestly it is apt when he had a Democrat regime and they virtually could do anything they wanted to do with policy and with the economy and everything else. But now there is a Republican House and a Republican Senate, and they agreed to lift the cap off of the national debt so that the President of the United States has a blank check. That hasn't been done since 1913. So literally,
and look what happened then.
yes, literally, we have a scenario and a situation now where the President of the United States can spend willy-nilly as a monarch. And our founding fathers never pretended that the President would have such elite powers. Does this not bode for Republicans who are saying that they believe in conservatism, but really they're socialists as well?
Well, what does conservative mean, Ken?
Well, conservatism is a way of life. It is built on the moral principles that you would treat each other as you would treat yourself. And then, quite frankly, that the traditions of society... Yeah, the traditions of society are much more important than making changes to society willy-nilly.
Yes. Now, let me ask you something. Did you see the Republican debate?
No, I was on the air because I'm the king of 9 p.m.
Okay. Yeah, some of us actually do our radio shows when we're supposed to. Yeah. I was very mad today at work because I got off about 36 minutes before you called. So, not happy. But anyway, if you can imagine the debate, and you have Carly Fiorione, and you have Jeb Bush, and Chris Christie, and Ted Cruz, and Mike Huckabee, and all these others up there, right? Whoever I've forgotten, I'm sorry, Ben Carson, Trump. There's one thing they all have in common. They all call themselves conservatives. Now, obviously, that can't be true, right? But it is. So, the word conservative is ubiquitous, and it has actually no meaning. It's whatever anybody wants it to be. There's no definition, there's no general rule of thumb, no guideline to it. Which is why I don't call myself a conservative anymore, except by out of habit, then I have to correct myself. I call myself a constitutionalist.
Okay.
Because that way it separates me from all the conservatives who think government's the solution. And fully, 30, 40, 50% of the Republican Party believes that as long as the Republican Party is in charge of government, then big government's okay, because we're going to do it the right way. And, and it will work. If you look at how much Obama got passed when the House and Senate and the White House and the Judiciary were all under Democrat control. Okay? But now look at it, when the Chief Justice is a Republican, the House is Republican, the Senate's Republican, and Obama's getting even more now than he did under the Democrats.
Exactly.
So it's nothing, it's because the progressives are in both parties. And remember when Boner said he was going to step down, I said, look for the deal. That was the first thing out of my mouth, was there is a deal in the works. He wouldn't have done this without it. And, of course, Boehner says he's clearing the decks for Ryan to be Speaker and not have any baggage. Well, he cleared the decks, all right. There isn't going to be another thing to fight about until Obama's out of office. Because all the spending bills have been taken care of, and none of the spending bills were done. None of the budget, as required by the Constitution, was taken care of. They did it with continuing resolutions and spending level increases. And so it's, all tomfoolery and lies. And they're destroying our country. We have $70 trillion in debt. We'll never be spitting and spinning. We have homeless veterans laying out there without any food or shelter, while we're putting in five-star hotels illegal aliens. And we're taking in ISIS members and other terrorists in the form of refugees, while we're refusing to let any Christians come into this country under refugee status, while they're being persecuted and murdered by Islam over, in the Mideast. And he's gutted the military, fired or run off most anybody that would uphold the Constitution as a member of the military, in leadership and stuff. And so he's gutted it of the backbone of leadership and is spinning it to the ground and exhausting its resources. And so this is right. This is all Cloud and Piven and what's his name? The guy that likes blowing up cops that he's such a good friend with.
Tarantino.
Yeah, as well. The other one, one early round guy.
Yeah, Professor, what's his name? We're talking right now with the great underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, has a wonderful program that you should be listening to. He is the hit of Periscope. But want to take a break right here on WNJC 1360 AM, the Superstation for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey. Glad that you are listening. And around the world on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network with our affable, lovable, benevolent dictator, Rick Trader. Stockings for Soldiers, Delaware Incorporated, was founded to help improve the morale and welfare of members of the armed forces of the United States of America deployed in harm's way. Stop breathing. We accomplish our mission by sewing holiday stockings and filling them with special items for the troops. Many of the stockings that we send are for a specific person and their name on the stocking. With their name on the stockings, forgive me. For many troops, a specific person. Yeah.
Oh, specific.
No, that's only if you're in the Atlantic.
For the Navy.
Oh, the seven seas. We are trying to send a touch of home as well as personal messages of support to remind our troops that we appreciate all they do for us and to let them know that they have not been forgotten over the holidays. We depend on the generosity of others to help us to accomplish our vital mission. Stockings for Soldiers, Delaware Incorporated, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. As such, donations, and those are donations from you, Mr. and Mrs. America, not the government, are deductible to the extent allowed by law. Please consult your tax professional for more information. If you would like to make a donation to our community project, please send your check to Stockings for Soldiers, Delaware Incorporated, 1911 Folk Road, F-O-U-L-K Road, Wilmington, Delaware, 19810. Thank you for your assistance. Here we go. You're listening to us on WNJC 1360 AM and around the world on SHR Media, Conservative Commandos Radio Network, and also Rebooting Liberty. Thank God for you all, because you're spreading the good news of conservatism or constitutionalism, depending on which side of this particular fence we're standing, around the world. Professor, when I can ask you anything, right?
Anything. Ask me.
Ask.
I'll explain it to you.
Thank you, sir, for explaining to us. When we think of warriors of constitutionalism, capitalism.
We're going to talk about me.
No, we don't have enough time. We think of George Washington. We think of the Minutemen. We think of warriors of the Revolution here. But there was a revolution going on in France called the Enlightenment, that was supposed to bring true reform and equality to all men. I want you to explain how Thomas Jefferson saw both of those particular revolutions and how we should see those revolutions for what they actually bore.
Well, of course, Jefferson was involved in our revolution heavily. He's the one that was decided that they were going to have the list of reasons why we were justified in separating from our parent country, from England, a list of crimes of the king and reasons that justify separation, and renewing government to protect the people. Our revolution was extraordinary. It was unprecedented in history. What we did, how we did it, and what we achieved. Now, France came right along behind us, and Thomas Jefferson was a huge Francophile, is what they call him, a lover of French people, Francophile.
Yeah.
And he was just enamored with it. But even Jefferson finally had gotten disgusted with Robert and those guys and what they were doing, chopping off heads, destroying royalty. It was just nasty, and it wasn't a revolution. It was just a series of riots and a destruction of government, as opposed to a conservative revolution you may hear as described by us. Well, it sounds like I'm in Washington, D.C. here now, all the ambulances and stuff going by. Can you hear it? I'm in my hotel room up in Washington, D.C.
Well, your murders will probably be served before those in D.C., so talk to me.
I woke up once because there was like a 3-minute lull between ambulances and police cars and stuff. That actually woke me up while I was up there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was used to them coming by steadily. It's just like they never turned off. But, so, anyway, the revolutions, as far as America is concerned, is, I can't tell you how many revolutions. France had 6 or 9 or some ungodly amount of revolution.
Exactly.
To the present, date. But we had one real revolution. Sometimes you'll hear the Civil War as the second revolution. And there's even talk now that we're in our third. Mm-hmm. Amidst what's going on today. And if so, then let it begin with me.
Amen. I will join you. Listen, a great economist, Brian Kaplan, wrote in Library of Economics and Liberty about communism. And this is what he stated. He said, Lenin concluded that it must be engineered by a quasi-military party of professional revolutionaries, which he began and led. After realizing that the revolution would have many opponents, Lenin determined that the best way to quell resistance was with what he frankly called terror, mass executions, slave labor, and starvation. After seeing that the majority of his countrymen opposed communism even after his military triumph, Lenin concluded that one-party dictatorship must continue until it enjoyed unshakable popular support. In urban America, for the past 50 years, we virtually have seen one-party rule under the auspices of the Socialist Democrat Party of America. Have those been the forming grounds or the birthing centers for what's being done on the college campuses of America?
Yeah, that's the breeding ground for it, for sure. You got to remember that when Marx was writing all this crap, he thought that man didn't need rulers. That was the whole idea of communism, but there was no rulers. Okay? And that we would all just do what was required of us to help feed and clothe and shelter one another. And we would all kind of jump in and do each according to our needs and means. The old famous saying.
Yeah.
And the idea was that man would transform into a new creature that was above petty politics and the need for leaders and stuff like that. And so all government was for was to be temporary in order for man to revolutionize himself and become this new species, which would require a new species because, man is not built like that. Mankind is not designed that way. So, and all you need to do is look at the example of the Pilgrims and the Mayflower at Thanksgiving, which is a story I like to tell each year. And they, so if you look at that example, you see exactly why communism fell, which is why we celebrate Thanksgiving in this country. And but the Soviet Union went the hard way to figure that out. And China's gone the hard way to figure that out. But you see, the difference is, though, is Marx was writing about the idealized man, whereas the people who put it in play, Trotsky and
Lenin,
Lenin and Stalin, no, they weren't about that. They weren't about power and control. They thought they could do better and that they could, they would be able to rule and control and profit and have power and wealth and whatever they wanted with it. And so they used that as a guise to control people, and to fool the masses. How they say church is the opium of the masses. Well, that's what communism was too. It was to fool all the idiots into believing that this was going to be a system that would better them. This is what the Democrat Party is, Ken. It's opium for the masses, telling everybody they're going to constantly give you everything for nothing at the expense of some rich white person. And it doesn't work that way. No matter how many times you sock it to a rich white guy, has that ever improved your life? It's never improved mine. In fact, it has harmed my life because it's made it harder for me to get pay raises or to get a good job. When you look at the fact that 83 or 93% of black youths are jobless that want a job, and they can't get one. And it's because of the policies and standards of the Democrat Party. Through all their rules, regulations, child protective services, child labor laws, minimum wages, all of these rules and stuff they put in place that you think, or not you personally, but a lot of people think are benefiting Americans and helping them and protecting them, are exactly the reasons why there are so many people out of work and in jail and suffering and starving, and the distributions of wealth and food that we're always trying to redistribute would have been better distributed had government not gotten involved than what they've accomplished with it.
Now, I'm going to talk in a few moments about Acts chapter 2 and how Acts. It's in the Bible. Acts.
Right.
Chapter 2.
George.
Right next to job. I don't know why there's so many unemployed people.
Get a job.
They shortened it out of the Hebrew.
They had to pay by the word, so they made a few, abridges.
But I'm going to refer to Kaplan again here, and I want to make a reference to Professor Click on the campus of Missouri.
Before you do that, Ken, I just have to say how disgusted I am that she still has a job. Did you hear about the teacher, the professor who told the students he's going to hold a test anyway today?
Yeah.
And that they should show up, right, and not let the bullies win. And he has lost his job. He has resigned because they have forced him to not hold the test. And he's been accused of being a racist. And there's been blowback because a lot of black students at Missouri are angry about this. But here's this other woman getting people to bully and beat up on journalists, minority student journalists from this campus that belong there, while protecting people that have been busted from New York to rebel routes.
Yes.
So whatever you're going to go ahead, I just burn my chaps, let me tell you.
I think paramount to anything, it shows that a college education amongst liberals is a waste of a tax dollar. Because literally they come unchanged, sheathing themselves in their own benevolent glory of their thoughts. They feel enlightened, and they feel that it is the role of the student to enlighten the teacher rather than the teacher to enlighten the student. But Mr. Kaplan writes, Lenin recognized that the government would have to seize the land of tens of millions of peasants who surely would resist. He tried during the Russian Civil War, but retreated in the face of chaos and 5 million famine deaths. Lenin's successor, Joseph Stalin, finished the job a decade later. The first thing that Professor Click did, she reached for the property of the photojournalist. It is cognizance for communists by force to take the property of someone else and hold it as their own in order to exact their philosophy on all of mankind. And now you have a football team that exacted an economic challenge to the college, and quite frankly, I think the president should have been fired because he did not handle it the right way. He should have told the football players that there is a capitalistic contract that you assign yourself to in exchange for a college degree. And thus, if you don't keep your promise, we won't keep our promise. You can go home and play for that semi-pro team over on East Lake Street because nobody else will watch you.
Well, that's exactly right, Ken. He should have gone in there and told them that either on Monday they wouldn't have scholarships and they'd either have to write a check for tuition or be dismissed from college.
Thank you.
And the beautiful thing would be that they could not go to another college and play ball. They have to take a year off to be eligible. And so this would basically end their college football careers. So the people that held the aces were the administration, if they had any stones. But like I said, they created this mess, Ken, and they're getting what they deserved. I don't have any sympathy for the progressives at Missouri University. The funny thing here is that the administration, the professors, and the students on that campus, the vast majority of all vote for the same party. They are of the same mindset. They think and agree with most of the same things. What they have done was that the black students on that campus have turned around and bit the hand that fed them and trained them and taught them. And they're using those same tactics against their own masters. And it was all based on lies too, which is, I think, even more beautiful. Every single thing that was going on was based on a lie. And about the only thing that we can find that actually started and created all this was that the millionaire's kid went on a hunger strike because he lost his college health care plan because of Obamacare.
Thank you.
And he blamed white people for it. So, it was Whitey's fault, and it was the campus's fault for not immediately giving him his own health care post. And of course, the family was worth something like $7 million.
$20 million.
On everybody on campus's insurance.
They're worth $20 million. Don't understand, besides the fact that he's an 8th-year student at the University of Missouri, which means that he's a professional student. What a job if you can get it. And quite frankly, they are abusing the children who are on that particular campus. Your kid, Mr. and Mrs. Black America, you sent your child there to get a very good education so they might have a chance at a good government job. I don't know why you think that way. But the bottom line is they're not exacting the will that you provided for them to extend themselves to a college education and take on hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans in exchange for the opportunity to get employed. We have now individuals who say that they're fighting against a culture of racism, establishing a culture of racism, segregating themselves from white people in Missouri University, blaming white people for their academic failures, and then expecting white America to come out of nowhere and afford to support their inebriation. They're drunkenness towards this new power that they have collectively. I'm flustered at this particular point because I've watched it happen, and no matter how many times I tell people that communism is destroying urban America, black America, however way you wish to say it, by race, color, creed, or religion, that literally this concept of collectivism is destroying what really makes people free in this country. It's capitalism, it's constitutionalism, it's conservatism, and it's also Christ. I want to come to a point now where the professor will lend me his ear to listen to a few things that I have to say regarding a biblical interpretation of what's going on.
Before you launch into that, let me say one thing real quick.
Go ahead.
The most conservative school in this country is Hillsdale College. It's also the first college that allowed blacks and women to attend and commingled the classes. They do not segregate. And it's the only campus that doesn't take a penny from the government. Not a single penny. And it can teach people how to be good Americans and patriots and be, whatever you want to get a degree in, they offer it, and you can go out and thrive with it. All right. So while you're looking at your liberal masters for handouts, if you really want an education, if you really want to do something with your life, go look at the conservative campus where they don't care about your skin color.
Yeah.
And never have. The ones who actually fought the battles for you. Hillsdale College is an amazing thing, and yet we're the ones that are torn apart. We're the ones that are blamed for everything. And that's what frustrates me, Ken, is that it's the conservative, it's the constitutionalist that has been fighting this battle for them. And yet they turn around and fight us, and that's why I find it delicious that now they're fighting the other side.
Exactly.
They're fighting everybody. They're going to lose completely because they're fighting all sides, but they're biting the hands that feed them. And so if you're a parent and and it doesn't matter what race you are, if you want your kids to have a great education, learn about the patriotic history of this country, and not be tied down to government control, go check out Hillsdale College.
Exactly. And for those of you who happen to be, I don't want to run out of time on the biblical portion of it because I do want to get into Acts 2, but I also want to make this.
Sorry.
No. You struck a chord in me, and I need to talk on this particular matter, especially since we're broadcasting in Philadelphia. Here it is. How dare you all say that you truly want your children to be free, and yet you tie them down with such an affinity for racism? In all of my conceptualism, and all of my understanding, and all of the wisdom God liberally gives me because I ask Him, I cannot understand how the color of someone's skin makes that big a difference to you in the classroom when you're taking the same exam and reading from the same book. The onus is on you and your personal responsibility to achieve. And it's not the collective that will give you your grade. It's you. That's what you're learning in the classroom. That it's on you to excel, to achieve. Listen, if you took away all the white people on the football team, are you trying to say that, Are you trying to say that only the black ones could play and succeed? That would be a bold-faced lie. So you need people of different cultures, of different faiths, of different religions. You need people of diversity, per se, to come together in one unit block. And not to dispel them after you have won your treaties, per se. A whole lot of people have this concept that the Bible endorses communism. I ask you to find in the Bible anywhere where Jesus himself endorsed collectivism. If you followed Christ, if you followed his word, you would know for a fact that he sought for individuals to find personal salvation in him, to be personally responsible for their actions, and to personally pursue him at all costs. Those are all personal. Nowhere in it is collective. But a lot of people point, and these are the same people who probably received their education from Missouri. There are lots of people that point to communism or socialism as being referenced in Acts chapter 2. In Acts chapter 2, there is reference to the fact that after the Holy Spirit had come in the day of the Pentecost, leaving gifts in tongues for those who were left behind, that somehow that was God's anointing of government to provide for the people what the people could not provide for themselves. And in no way is that true. Let us take a look at the diversity of people that were first blessed by the Holy Spirit. When you take a look at Acts chapter 2, verse 5. Now there was dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men from every nation under heaven. And at this sound the multitude came together, and they were bewildered, because each one was hearing them speak in his own language. See, even Jesus wants you to speak in English. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. But
Jesus.
Jesus
wants you speaking.
And they were amazed and astonished, saying, are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear each of us in his own native language? Parthians, Medes, Elamites, the residents of Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, and parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabians. Yes, before they were Mohammedans, they were Arabians. We hear them telling in our own tongues the mighty works of God. And all were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, what does this mean? But others mocking said, they are filled with new wine. I want to go down to where people point erroneously to this concept of communism in the Bible. Let's take a look at Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to 44. The fellowship of the believers. What Jesus wants is a communion of believers, not a dependence on government to provide for you what you can do for yourself. Acts chapter 2 verse 42 says, and they devoted themselves to the apostles, teaching, and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together, and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day after day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. These individuals were believers who thought that any moment of the day Jesus would return. What they shared was a desire in and of themselves individually because of their faith in Jesus Christ to meet the demands of those who had need. And the important thing here is Jesus and the Bible refers to the fact that one has a need when that individual cannot provide for themselves. The widows and the orphans. So virtually, these families were sharing in breaking bread and doing other things in devotion to the Lord Jesus Christ. They were not of a collective opinion that it was the government's responsibility to meet and to tax and to take their property. You will note in the 42nd and 43rd verses that these individuals willingly come together, not forced, but willingly come together. And in their collectivity together, they're bringing from the fruits of their own individual work. Ladies and gentlemen, nowhere in the Bible does Jesus refer to communism as the way, the truth, and the life. And in fact, if you really want to get it straight, the only tool that will adequately be used to lift people out of poverty is not communism, which is by force, and not socialism, which is by vote. It is by capitalism. It is your ability to create from the gifts God gives you the wealth, because he's given you the power to make wealth, as Deuteronomy 8:18. Exactly what's necessary to meet the demands and the needs of your neighbor. And if you love your neighbor as you love yourself, you will not find it an offense to break bread with him, to study the word, to pray, and to desire the moment of Jesus' time. Professor, your thoughts. How did I do, sir? Am I right on track? I seem to have lost the professor.
I kept hitting my mute button and it wouldn't turn off. I did about 30 times. I had to cycle the phone through. Oh my goodness. And I had to turn it off. All the sirens and stuff are getting closer.
There you go.
I think the IRS is looking for me or something.
That's right.
INS. Somebody's looking for me.
Somebody's looking for you. So, Professor, what does the Bible say? Does the Bible endorse communism in any capacity or way?
Oh, no. Well, you know, I find it interesting that there are people trying to make that connection on the left, and yet, look at the first thing the communists did was to do what? Ban religion. Yes. Oh, you know, if it endorsed it so much, you'd think they would have embraced it. Everything about religion is anathema to communism. It goes against what it stands for, what they're trying to achieve. And I think there's plenty of arguments you can find in the Bible that Jesus would be pretty pissed if communist government was set up. It's one of the things that communists have to do is they have to make everything into a group right or a group benefit. It's not about the individual. And Jesus was about the individual. He wasn't about collective salvation. He was about individual salvation. He gave us a gift, which is why he came here, why it all had to happen. He gave us the gift of the Holy Spirit. And that's an individual thing. Now, God resides in you, which is why we are all, kings, philosophers of, not philosopher, not a welder either, but what am I thinking of? A prophet.
Yes.
We are like the kings and prophets of old, which were the only ones that tended to get the Holy Spirit until Jesus came. And now we all can have it if you go through the right procedures. And I think that's critical to remember, is that any situation, system, or organization or government that tries to do things in a collective manner goes against what Jesus showed us. Not just words, he showed us what he wanted us to do. And this is why I say things like, that if you're generationally trapped on welfare, then you're not a Christian, because you're stealing from people. You're taking from people like me and you that work and work hard to provide for families, and we have to work even harder, because part of what we earn for our labor, my heartbeats I trade to get money, is just taken from me without any choice, under duress, and given to people who are most likely undeserving of it. Mm-hmm. And that is, there's nothing in the Bible that can justify that. And that's what communism is. Taking people's property and labor and money and taking it and giving it to others. In Africa, the British had colonized and everything, and we all know what a sucky deal that was. Well, when they left, there were a lot of people that were white that considered themselves Africans, not British. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that the governments did in Africa, because Africa's not a country, it's a continent, for those who don't know. And so some of these different African nations became ruled by only blacks. And one of the things they started doing was seizing the property of these white farmers and giving them to blacks to be farmers, and thinking this was justified and it was getting it back and screwing the white guy and revenge and whatever else it was couched in. The end result was people started starving in Africa because of it. And, but they did it under communism, collectivism, and central planning. And now they're starving. It wasn't that the white farmers were white that was the difference. It was the fact that the farmers were out there and were willing to labor and to create these things and to sell it for a profit. And the people who were given the land instead weren't willing to do that. And so that caused a famine and lack of food. And this is what communism does everywhere it goes. It creates famines, it creates droughts, it creates starvation, and it destroys the will.
And capitalism creates the tools necessary to deal with lack. Communism and socialism only expose the flaws that are created by lack. When Mobo writes here, and let me just read these two paragraphs, they're short. He says, at the beginning of the Cultural Revolution, I feel the ordinary people were exhilarated by their new right to criticize and even to attack their bosses. The suppressed humiliation that one suffers at the hands of a faceless bureaucracy builds up a resentment that is like the surging tide blocked by a dam. When the dam crumbles, the destruction is horrendous. That was what happened during the Cultural Revolution, or the Campus Revolution is what I'm going to refer to. Now resentment is building up again. The bureaucracy problem was never solved, and when the old bureaucrats and local lords were invited back to power as heroes after the Cultural Revolution had been denounced, their prejudice was confirmed and their stupidity encouraged, and their misuse of power was intensified by the urge for revenge and a wish to make up for lost time. What we see on our college campuses is not liberation, but we see vengeance. And I once heard a great man say that vengeance is the Lord's. Why do we allow men to provoke each other with vengeance and cruelty for the sake of philosophical gain?
Well, Jim, the problem here is real simple, in my opinion, and it's this. That there is a lot of frustration caused by central planning, bureaucracy, and other things that we've been talking about for you and I for the last 3 years. And this group of people on this campus don't know who to fight. They actually don't know where the enemy is, but they know there's one out there, and they're reacting blindly, which is why they're attacking their own side, because they don't understand that it's their side that caused this.
Yeah.
And and so they're just used to attacking, and it's like, I don't know, it's like a dog that gets startled and he lashes out with his teeth without realizing that he's about to bite, the one that's been feeding him. And it happens when you spook a dog. And so I think this is kind of the same reaction. Is these people are getting spooked, no pun intended, and they are getting upset, and they don't know where to react. Now, when you're talking about the French revolutions or the communist revolutions, there was a lot of frustration with the bureaucracies because there was starvation and stuff. It wasn't great under the czars either.
Yeah.
Communism managed to take that and say, you guys are amateurs. Look what we can do. Look how many people we can kill and starve. But the revolution occurred because the masses were angry and didn't know who to blame. So they blamed the government that existed at the time, and that's what's going on here with these people, is they're blaming people that probably have no responsibility for what's going on, like you and I.
Exactly.
The ones that have been crying wolf, trying to tell them where the enemy is. So.
Exactly.
And so,
Professor,
remember getting what they asked for. Yes, sir.
you have a wonderful program. How can
Don't tell me what to do.
I'm going to tell you. I'm asking you. I'm going to put my Che Guevara shirt on and come over to the crib so your dogs can bark at me. How can people listen to your program, sir?
Go to undergroundprofessor.us and find out.
There you go. Ladies and
It's all
gentlemen,
listed there.
the Underground Professor. We humbly come to you and we say thank you for listening. WNJC 1360 AM, the home of the most affable, lovable, benevolent dictator in mankind's history, Rick Trader, Conservative Commandos radio show. And for all the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the states of New Jersey, Delaware, and around the world. Coming from you, the exceptional one, coming to you at least, thanks you. God bless you. God bless the USA. Come back to us next week, next Friday, Saturday at 5 p.m. One day I'm going to get these words and lips together. God bless you.
You're like one of those Chinese movies out of sync.
Go now.